All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we will now get into talking about the conference championship games in college football, as well as taking a look at the early slate of games for week 14 in the NFL. But actually, I do want to take you back to last weekend, final week of the regular season in college football. It was rivalry week, and I did watch the Ohio State Michigan game, and just what a disappointing showing by Ohio State. It was very low scoring. Now, I think I would have taken the points had I put a little bit of a wager on this game, but I didn't. But I did not expect it to be 13-10. Michigan was a 20.5 point underdog in this game. They won 13-10. There was missed field goals. There was an interception, near the goal line. And then at the end of the game, you had Michigan plant the flag, which happened, across multiple games, and that led to fights. This fight went on for a while with Ohio State and Michigan. But, I do agree with what some people were saying. It's like, hey, you had 4 quarters to make sure that didn't happen, and they didn't do it. And, this hurt Ohio State's ranking in the playoffs. They were the number 2 team, and now they kind of went down a little bit. So, that's a game that they probably should have won, but they ended up not winning it. Right now, they went from 2 down to 6 because of that loss to Michigan. And, this is a Michigan team. There's no Harbaugh. A lot of guys left. And Michigan was able to get the win. So give Michigan credit. And, their quarterback, Davis Warren, had 62 yards passing, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions, and they still won the game. They almost had 200 yards rushing in this game, which is, what Michigan does. They run the football. Mullings had over 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. Will Howard actually got hurt in this game, but he came back in. He had only 175 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. They only ran the ball for 77 yards. Just a disappointing performance by Ohio State. And like I said, you had 4 quarters to make sure that, they wouldn't plant the flag at the end of the game. So, you should have played better, and that wouldn't have happened. But they end up losing. That was their second loss of the season. Their only other loss, of course, is to Oregon. And then some of the other games, South Carolina beat Clemson 17-14. Louisville was all over Kentucky, winning 41-14. Alabama beat Auburn 28-14. SMU 38-6. Arizona State beat Arizona 49-7. Penn State, they'll be playing in the Big Ten championship game. They won 44-7 over Maryland. So yeah, Penn State against Oregon, that's a big game. Notre Dame finished at 11-1. They beat USC 49-35. That was a high-scoring game. Florida State finishes their disappointing season, losing 31-11 to Florida. They dropped to 2-10. Oregon was all over Washington. They won 49-21. Texas won a low-scoring game. They beat A&M 17-7. But yeah, so then we move on to the conference championship game. So tonight you got Tulane and Army. Army's a 4.5 point underdog. And then you got the Mountain West Championship, Boise State and UNLV. Now, these two teams did play each other earlier in the season, and Boise State won that game. Aston Genty in that game, he had 33 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. So we'll see what happens in this game. I'll take Boise State, and say that Genty has a big game. Let's see what happens with that. And then Saturday, you got the Big 12 championship game, the SEC championship game, Big 10, and ACC. The Big 10 and the ACC championship game are both being played at the same time. So the Big 12 championship is noon Eastern time between Iowa State and Arizona State. Both teams are 10-2. I think this is the first meeting between these two teams, from what I heard. Arizona State is a 1.5 point favorite. That one's definitely tough to pick. I'll take the Cyclones with the points. I'll do that. I'll take the Cyclones with the points. And then we got Georgia and Texas who met earlier this year, and Georgia won that game. I'm gonna say Texas gets revenge and they win this game, but it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close. I'll take Texas. Penn State and Oregon. I mean, Oregon's been the best team all year. You know, Penn State's got a good defense, but I'll say Oregon gets the win, and then SMU and Clemson for the ACC championship. I'll take SMU, but we'll see what happens. I'll make sure to try to pay close attention to these games. I definitely, I'm looking forward to them. Georgia and Texas, I want to watch. Penn State and Oregon, I definitely want to watch that as well. So we'll see what happens. The Texas Georgia game's definitely that one's a very tough game to pick. Anthony also in the chat said, "Do you think Bama deserves to be ahead of Miami with 3 losses?" See, the thing with that is Miami. Some games like this year, some of their wins, they barely got by. And I just kind of looked at them as maybe not being as good of a team as maybe we thought. I think it's because of the pedigree of Alabama. It's like, the committee doesn't want to leave them out. That's, I think what most people are saying. It's because it's Alabama. You don't want to leave Alabama out, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then he also said it's like the committee completely overlooked the fact Alabama was blown out by Oklahoma at home the week prior, and they hold a 3-point loss at Syracuse against Miami a lot harder. Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate thing is, it's kind of out of our hands, and it's that you got a committee deciding who's in and who's out, but that's what they decided. And they did lose to Vanderbilt too, 40-35. Yeah, no, I mean, maybe Miami deserved a better chance. I mean, their offense was elite this year, but, you lose to Georgia Tech at the end of the season. You lose to Syracuse. I mean, yeah, no, I guess they just didn't want to leave Alabama out, so that's why they put them ahead. So, I'm happy Indiana was still in it because I thought after that loss to Ohio State, I thought they were going to just leave them out. But no, they're still in at 1 loss, so good for them. But yeah, it's definitely controversial. You're not going to make everybody happy with some of the decisions. So I just hope the playoffs are good. Let's see how this new format goes. But yeah, no, big games this weekend. And then let's get into the early slate of games in the NFL. So the Giants and the Saints. Giants coming in at 2-10. Saints are 4-8. Giants are 4.5-point underdogs. I really don't know what to do with this game. This is a game I think I could see the Giants winning, but now Dexter Lawrence is out for the year. The Giants are just trying to wrap up this season. The Saints are still, playing hard. I think the Saints win this game and cover, although I don't have full confidence in that. Then we got the Steelers and the Browns. We had the snow game from a couple weeks ago. Browns are getting a lot of points in this game. I'm going to take the Browns with the points. I don't feel great about that either, but I do think the Steelers get revenge and they win this game. Russell Wilson coming off of that 400-yard performance against the Bengals. But yeah, I like the Steelers to win, but I like the Browns to cover. I did already talk about the Vikings and the Falcons. I did like the Vikings winning and covering. Now you got the Jets against the Dolphins. Dolphins are 5.5-point favorites. I think the Dolphins are going to dismantle the Jets in this game, kind of like what they did last year. I think Tua's going to have a big game. I think, the running game with the Dolphins is going to give the Jets a problem. The Jets defense has not been as good as it was, and Aaron Rodgers, he hasn't been good either. I think this could be a game similar to how also it was against the Cardinals earlier this season. So I like the Dolphins to win and cover in that matchup. This one's interesting. The Eagles are 13-point favorites against the Panthers. Now, the reason why I say it's interesting is because it's a lot of points, and the Panthers could cover that because they've been playing better. But the Eagles right now look like one of the best teams in football. Their defense has been playing really well. Saquon Barkley, is one of the candidates for MVP behind Josh Allen. I think this is the game where, the Panthers kind of come back down to earth and the Eagles, win by a couple of scores here and cover the number. They're at home. So I'll take the Eagles, although the number is pretty big. But I think the Eagles will win by a couple of scores here. And then we got the Raiders and the Bucks. We'll see what happens with Mike Evans. Maybe he does play. I do like the Raiders to cover here. I think they could at least keep it within the 6.5. The Bucks are still, they're getting healthier, but they're still a little bit banged up. Baker Mayfield's a little banged up as well. Aiden O'Connell didn't play that bad. Actually, no, not only did not play that bad, but he played pretty good against the Chiefs. So I think they could keep it close. Actually, I think he popped up on the injury report. So, I mean, if he doesn't play and Desmond Ritter's playing, well, then I might change my mind. But I do like the Bucks to win, but I do like the Raiders to cover. Oh, I might be wrong, actually. No, he is questionable. Oh, no, because he's dealing with an illness. So I think he should play. So I like the Bucks to win, like I said, but I like the Raiders to cover. Also, some more comments from Anthony in the chat. He says, what scares me is, let's say SMU loses to Clemson by 3 points, gets screwed in, Alabama still goes in. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. And then he says, I don't trust the Dolphins. Sorry, holding back a sneeze. Yeah, but again, do you trust the Jets? They're playing against the Jets. So, the Jets just have not been, they have been a massive disappointment. And, I thought when Tua got hurt, I thought, okay, well, maybe the Jets can at least finish in second place. They couldn't even do that. Tua comes back and they're in third right now. And they have a chance to finish in last place. I mean, what if the Patriots pass them? So, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, so I like the Dolphins, like I said, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Raiders. And then this one, I don't really know what to do. You got Mac Jones and the Jaguars with no Trevor Lawrence taking on the Titans in Nashville. Titans are 3.5-point favorites. I don't really trust either of these teams. I mean, the Titans have been playing better. I mean, they did get blown out by the Commanders. But, they're at home, so, maybe they win and cover. But, again, this is another game where I just don't really know what to do. So those are my predictions for the early slate. Let me know what you guys think. We're going to take our final break of the show now, and then when we come back, we will take a look at the other matchups for this weekend, including Chargers-Chiefs on Sunday night, and that will take us to the end and bring us to the weekend. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.